Good afternoon, my fellow marketing chums. Today is January 20th, 2021, and today I want to talk about how the history of marketing has never been for small business. There's no shortage of articles on the history of marketing, but there seems to be a shortage of marketing strategies as small businesses are practicing it. Even today's most popular marketing concepts like content marketing still seem to focus on how large organizations can build and monetize audiences. I have a theory marketing is behind in adapting its definition to how the unmarketing educated are tapping into powerful audience building opportunities. When Instagram was just getting popular and my young teenage daughters were schooling each other on how to get likes, it was the first moment I realized how audience building is innate in how children played marketing. Small businesses account for about 50% of our GDP, and they too play marketing, or better stated, they build audiences without referencing any of the marketing training I received in college or hear about from today's most popular marketing experts. This is my first Instagram posts in July of 2011. I discovered a podcast called This Old Marketing in 2017 when I committed a year of focus on small business marketing. I was listening to podcasts, books, YouTube talks, blogs, and I almost passed on listening when in the first episode I listened to, the subject matter focused on big companies with marketing departments and disruption and whatnot in those hemispheres. I almost passed, but I didn't because Joe Pelosi and Kevin Rose were way too engaging in the state of content marketing as an exploding field. Yes, as the name of their podcast suggests, content marketing is nothing new. They cite examples like John Deere and this newsletter they had printed and put out back, I think it was in the 1800s, or Ben Franklin and his Poor Richard's Almanac. But when you listen to their stories and their analysis with detailed and thought-provoking commentary, they're talking about a whole different level of company where much of what they talk about is not really accessible to small businesses. The one exception they do talk about in one of their videos is the Will It Blend. And if you guys haven't seen these videos, definitely check out the Will It Blend. The most popular one is this iPad video where they blend, not an iPad, a blending video where they blend an iPad. But if you look back into history of marketing, it's the same story. Large producers evolving how to sell more effectively to large audiences. Small businesses don't exist in the history of marketing. So, what is a quick history of marketing? Marketing as we know it today, if you skip past the ancient examples of branding and packaging and advertising in antiquity, there was some examples of these clay jars where this producer of fish sauce was putting kind of like their quality labels and on that. That is, you skip past that and you move to when you move to the Industrial Revolution, it's there when purchasing goods began to be easier for the consumer than making it for themselves. And I want to quote this article here. Prior to the Industrial Revolution, people made most of what they consumed. Any excess household production could be brought to town and sold or traded for other goods. This type of economy is commonly referred to as a pure substance economy. In a pure substance economy, there is little need for marketing to facilitate exchanges, since each household produces what it consumes. So, as businesses began to take up the task of producing and standardizing products, exchanges must take place, and henceforth, the birth of marketing kind of as we know it today. So the four eras of marketing. I'm going to try and keep this short so it doesn't get too boring. In 1960, Robert Keith of Pillsbury, the doughboy, published an article entitled The Marketing Revolution, where he proposed how marketing had evolved. He begins with the production era, which he says was between 1869 and the 1930s, where companies believed that lowering manufacturing costs and passing those cost savings to consumers would facilitate exchanges. And that worked. Basically, the thinking was, build these big machines, standardize the products, get the cost down to, what it costs to sell these products, and make it so cheap that it's better for somebody to go buy these products than to try and make them themselves. And that was the production era. And that worked fine until the Great Depression hit in 1929, when the amount of disposable and discretionary income tanked and low costs weren't enough. So we enter into the sales era from the 1930s to the 1950s. Which were followed where the new focus was to get rid of or move their products out of the factory door. This is an era marked by a variety of promotional techniques designed to inform and or persuade potential customers to buy their products. Theodore Levitt, a German-American economist and professor at Harvard Business School, noted that these firms were not necessarily concerned with satisfying the customer, but rather selling the product. The 1950s began what is described as the marketing department era, which began after World War II, when the U.S. was the only industrialized country able to produce goods. Armed with new manufacturing capabilities and sales concepts from the sales era, firms realized that they could produce many new and different products, but needed to understand customers better in determining what new products to produce. It was in this era that companies realized that selling focuses on the needs of the seller, whereas marketing focuses on the needs of the buyer. In the 1980s, we have what's been described as the relationship marketing era, which is where both the seller and the buyer have an interest in a more satisfying exchange. Philip Kotler, who has been described as the father of marketing, who's also still teaching, I believe, at Northwestern down in Chicago, noted that the cost of attracting a new customer is 5 times the cost of keeping a current customer. So the relationship marketing era is to try and extend the time and, the reoccurring sales and customer loyalty and whatnot, and how do you market around those kind of concepts. So I wanted to talk about these vintage marketing ads because I think they help illustrate how throughout history, these are examples of marketing, and where it shows the size of companies who could afford to do marketing, the type of marketing which has been described in these different eras. If you'll notice, when you see these ads, you'll see that we're not really, there's not a lot of small businesses here, and you'll look at that ad. So I want to know if any of you have seen WandaVision. Just saw it last night, the first 2 episodes, and this is when I was putting together these ads, was yesterday when I decided to watch that show. And it kind of blew me away because it's taking place in the 1950s, the first episode anyways. And so I pulled up one of the first ads with Lucille Ball. And for those of you who are older like me, you remember I Love Lucy. And if you watch WandaVision, it was actually almost a little unsettling, the cheesiness in which the laugh track was worked. If you'll notice, the aspect ratio of the show is back in the old days. You remember watching The Wizard of Oz when it wasn't widescreen. And so they shot that just the same way. And even some of the characters looked like some of the characters from Lucille, from I Love Lucy. So that show was pretty amazing. And so I just wanted to point that out. It's probably worth watching just from the standpoint. And they even had old ads that were being shown as commercials within that show. So going through these vintage marketing ads, crazy is that a lot of them, a huge amount of them back in the older days was about cigarettes. So I guess the cigarette companies had a ton of money back then to do marketing. Here's a great one. Nyco Time cigarettes, the smooth taste expected mothers crave. Oh man, cocaine toothache drops, instant cure, price 15 cents. Lloyd Manufacturing. This was back in March 1885. No, not a lot of marketing, if you'll notice on that. Just basically a little bit different than the other one. No, this is a good one. They're happy because they eat lard. Issued by the Lard Information Council. Let's see. I'll learn yous, said the cook to the clerk. Didn't I tell you never to send me anything but Kellogg's when I order toasted cornflakes? So that's an interesting, some first years of Kellogg's. I think that was in the early 1900s in their marketing campaigns. This one's great. For a better life, start cola earlier. How soon is too soon? Not soon enough. Laboratory tests over the last few years have proven that babies who start drinking soda during those early formative period have a much higher chance of gaining acceptance and fitting in during those awkward preteens and teen years. So do yourself a favor. Do your child a favor. Start them on a strict regimen of soda and other sugary carbonated beverages right now for a lifetime of guaranteed happiness. The Soda Pop Board of America there in 1515 West Hart Avenue in Chicago. I love that one. Let's stay on the theme of kids here. Oh, this one might be better. How mother and baby picked up. A case of Blatz beer in your home means much to the young mother, and obviously baby participates in the benefits. The malt in the beer supplies nourishing qualities that are essential at this time, and the hops act as an appetizing, stimulating tonic. Blatz beer, folks. Oh, man. How television benefits your children. Motorola, leader in television, shows how TV can better behavior at home and get better marks in school. I should have watched more TV. They call him Ginger. It's gingervating. It's gingervating. Drink Canada Dry ginger ale. Genuine original sack dress. I spent big money on high fashion when you can give her the authentic sack for just $1. Made of honest-to-goodness potato sacks. The loveliest female will look like a sack of potatoes. Handsome two-color print. $1. Oh, man, I got to stop. That's a cool one. More Dr. Smoke Camels than any other cigarettes. I think a lot of people have probably seen that before. These are interesting because these are back, and now we're going back to the, right at the Industrial Revolution there. And so a lot less promoting and more just kind of fact-driven. Another one here. I can't remember what the year was. The Reliance Ringer, right? The details there, production kind of oriented. This was one I found that was kind of funny. I didn't even know men had wigs, honestly. A man's wig for a man's world. The minute you get it, it's ready to wear. Anyway, so there's some vintage marketing ads. And again, I think what you probably notice is that there aren't many small businesses running those ads, and maybe that's a good thing. They might have not lasted in business. So let's talk about where things changed. And so that's the web, which I'm saying here, the web redefined marketing, but marketing doesn't know it. I received my marketing degree in 1988, and I went on to work full-time helping my father run his injection molding company in the industrial sector of Addison, Illinois. One of the things I did when I was working for him is I redrew his logo by sketching out the barrel of an injection molding machine in front of a circle born of horizontal lines, which was mimicking the latest design of the AT&T logo at the time. And this is a technique I really highly recommend today. Search for creating logos. You can search stock image sites like Shutterstock or freepic.com is a good one, and find logos that you like. Here's an example of me doing that, picking out logos that look pretty cool for the interns. And so I just found a bunch of logos and dropped them into Figma, and then we kind of modify them. You download them in vector format, then you can modify them, change the colors, you can do whatever you want. And it's pretty easy to do in this free graphic design program called Figma. And you can create your own logo. You can start with somebody else's work and then make the modifications. So that's one way that I like to do that, and we do that with the interns. But that logo that I drew, that was the only marketing that my dad's company had when I was working for him. From the time he began until we did something else. But for a long time, that was our brand. That was our marketing, was that logo. I found it interesting that we had it on our business cards, we had it on our stationery for estimates and quotes, but we didn't have it on the invoices because my dad wanted to save a little extra money, and he's like, we don't need to spend the extra. I don't know what the cost per thousand to put that logo to brand your invoices, because we already have the client. So and so he's saving money, and I understand that. That's the way small businesses have to make those decisions. But as I said, it was the extent of our marketing. But then he finally found some money to invest in a trifold brochure. And if you guys have ever seen, back in the day, we had this little trifold, and we designed it, and we had it printed, and then we had a box in the filing cabinet, and he would give it out when he's going out to see customers. But that was the extent of all the marketing that was ever done with my dad's company. And then, and you can imagine that there was a lot of small companies that they couldn't afford to be on TV, they couldn't afford on radio. Most small businesses, that was what they could do. They might create some brochures, but that was it. And then the web happened in 1991. And by 1995, the 1991 was the first web page. By 1995, I joined a friend in starting an internet company for the plastics industry called PlasticsNet. And after we started that and started and getting traffic to the site, I had a realization that this whole new web was going to be a completely new universe. When we had set up what I would call these plastic forums. And back in the day, the internet was really, truly a wild west, because now there was forum places like CompuServe and AOL had forums, but there was no real plastic forums for people to get on and talk about. And, that was what we did. We put a stake in the ground on a topic, into a topic, and we said we're going to be the place for plastics discussions. We put a couple of ads in the only very few trade publications for plastics at the time. Plastics News and Injection Molding Magazine was one of them, or two of them that I can think of. And we got some traffic there, and then it started to build. But it was really interesting because we had user-generated content at the time. And so it just kind of fed off of itself. We just had to build this thing, and we built it. That's what was so cool, is our code built this place, and we were connecting. And I think one of the things that really changed how I felt about things was when somebody from Marathon Key down in the Florida Keys had posted a question about rotomolding, or blow molding, I believe it was. And Key West and Summerlin Key and Key West is where I've had a lot of experience going to spring break in colleges. I find that an amazing place. But to see somebody with some kind of a plastics company in one of those keys getting into the discussion, that changed me. That moment was just it was a different time back then. So the next thing I want to talk about is how small business marketing is really a marketing that you already know. So I started sharing the story of my daughters using Instagram and how natural and fun it was for them, creating content that builds friendships and relationships. And at a large scale, we call that audiences, right? And more than fun, though, the social media that my kids have been using has been what I would describe as a salve for the social wounds. And I know that sounds kind of intense, but I always tell them that these kids are going through. There's a lot of social growth that goes on at these ages in junior high and high school and early college, and I do believe that the social media has really helped these kids during the lockdown. But it also seems like it's also been a critical force that keeps businesses alive and promotes regrowth as they are going to be pulling through this. Now, I've worked on large, wonderful projects run by big agencies spending substantial amounts of money and perfecting what I would describe as the quintessential website and marketing campaign. When we were doing that, we also spent many months and a few projects a full year before a single visitor crossed our web threshold. And that act, taking that long before a first person sees your website, is an act that I would consider completely opposite that the web was founded on. And so the birth and the evolution of the web and the web browser was lean and fast, and Netscape, the first commercial browser, also was the first free software for personal use. They created this concept of the lean hacker startup. And so that was kind of how the web began, and then looking about how these big projects are very slow in terms of how websites are developed. That's not the same as how small businesses have been using these tools. Today, a single person with a smartphone can actually make a living selling on Instagram alone. So we are back in a time, kind of curiously, of this pre-industrial revolution where individuals can self-sustain because of these marketing tools. These tools which come naturally to our children and our small business owners. When I present digital marketing plans to customers, it's most often stringing together the tools and the resources that will allow them to express what they already know, which is their customers. See, individuals know who their trusted friends are, as do small businesses that build from the ground up. And so by resources, I'm speaking of the young individuals who played marketing as a child and are now studying marketing as a powerful ally to developing their own brands, our digital marketing interns. But the one thing they need, and the way that they can help businesses, is they need content. And content is a teaser for next week's topic, which is going to be a new marketing model, which I'm calling the 4 C's of marketing for small businesses. I'm going to extend this discussion where I'm finding it hard to find this people talking about the way that small businesses do marketing versus the way that all of marketing really has been described through history. So that's the topic for today. Today, I also want to give you a marketing tip. Now, this week's tip is perhaps maybe the most important I can ever make, and that's that you should own your audience. Joe Pulizzi from This Old Marketing uses what's going on in social media and politics to state what he's been saying for 10 years. You watch this 1 minute and 47-second video to hear what I would describe the best analysis and how to kind of just take in what's going on with social media and how it applies to marketing. And he has a line in there, if he was Donald Trump's marketing department, this is what he would do. And essentially, it is owning your own audience. And so watch that. It's for about 1 minute and 47 seconds. You want to listen to the whole thing, which I highly recommend. That would be 66 minutes. It's the This Old Marketing podcast episode that just came out on, I think, 5 days ago. So that's that. Now, for your tip for small businesses, my recommendation is start building your email spreadsheet. And I say spreadsheet because that's typically easier for folks. And what you really want to do is you want to start going back. If you're like me, you could probably get 10, 15 years of emails of people that are in your email list. And then you're going to it's an arduous process, but start to go through that list. Take out people that you know that you don't really want to talk to, or you haven't talked to long enough that they're really going to care what you have to say. Go through that list, but really clean it up and get it in a Google spreadsheet. And I recommend Google Spreadsheet because that way you can keep adding and other people in your organization. If you have more than one person in your company, have them do the same thing and get those emails going in that list. And with that, you can start to do some email marketing because you own that email list. If you own that email list, you can start to send emails. You can bring people to your website, and you're not beholden to what social media could decide for whatever reason. And there's plenty of examples where companies have gone out of business because the algorithm changed and their audience just disappeared. And so that's kind of the essence of what Joe is talking here with kind of what's been going on politically without getting too political. That's why I like it so much. It's a really smart way. If you want to listen to how he describes it, please do so. And start on your email list. That will make a good difference. So I hope this helps, and I look forward to talking with you next week on the 4 C's for small business marketing.